What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Dad Needs to Talk. I'm your host, Robert, and today we're going to be talking about me being a gamer dad, as well as me sharing my thoughts on finishing Andor Season 2 and everything surrounding that, some game-related stuff, some new manga I've been watching, and also a new anime movie I watched called, I think it's called Lost in Twilight. So, before I get into all that, as always, if this is your first time here, then welcome. But if you're a returning listener and or watcher, then welcome back. Y'all know here at Danny's to Talk, it's all about fatherhood and family, manga, anime, TV shows, movies, and of course, some video games. So I hope everybody out there is doing well. I did not record last week. It was just, I think because, because last Monday was a holiday. So I just took the extra day just to rest and chill. But the rest is soon coming to an end, especially this week, man. The kids got out of school 2 weeks ago. Last week was kind of a majority slow, chill week, but it's about to ramp up at least really high for this next week because my two oldest boys, they have, and I'll mention, of course, as usual, timestamps down below if you want to jump ahead to any specific topics or subjects, yada yada yada. Because I'll have everything divided by games, anime, TV, manga, blah blah blah. But so my two oldest boys have training at 6 a.m. at the school. I'll drop them off at that on my way to work. Daughters are helping out with the basketball camp at 7:45 a.m. Middle son is starting a Arabic class camp at 8 a.m. So he'll go with his older brother to basketball at 6, and then 8 o'clock we got Arabic. And then of course the whatever random practices or stuff we got going on in the evenings and nights and stuff this week. So it's gonna be lots of early days this week. But that is the nature of the beast. I do want to say shout out to everybody out there that went to DreamCon down in Houston this weekend. Um, I haven't been able to go for a few years now. I only went to the one in 2022, but I always enjoy getting to live through all the pictures and videos and everything like that. So hopefully someday I'll be able to make my grand return. But until then, y'all keep having fun. Enough for me. But yeah, so it look like things went really good. All the mutuals out there that have various panels and events and stuff, whatever, everything looks good. Shout out to Rob J for dressing as cornbread from Sinners movie. Knocked that cosplay out. But yeah, so I'm trying to think. Aside from that, ain't too much else going on. Uh, Life wise, I think we're gonna find out in a couple of days if we gotta go to Kansas for basketball at the end of the month, and then yeah. Other than that, most of this last week was pretty much chilling, gaming, watching some basketball. Very excited to see this Pacers Thunder starting next Thursday, and yeah. So I think I'm going to just dive right in. No need to dawdle, especially because I gotta be up super early. So yeah. So I kind of, like I said, I wanted to just kind of talk about being a gamer dad, just because. So this week is a pretty busy week gaming wise. The Switch 2 is coming out, which in some ways doesn't feel like it, just because I don't know. It's just a lot of like weird circumstances around the Switch 2 release. And then, of course, Summer Games Fest. So we're going to get lots of uh, game reveals and announcements and updates, etc., over this next week and some change. So yeah, so just a very exciting time, and so it just kind of just like really got my brain going, just really thinking about and reflecting on being a parent, raising little gamers and stuff. And I've talked about it before because, like, each of my kids are kind of, you know, involved with games at various degrees. I would say my daughter's probably the lowest because, of course, they'll play like Fortnite and stuff with everybody, with their friends and things like that. And they'll play Roblox and Among Us and stuff like that. But aside from that, they haven't really engaged with too many games outside of those. Um, and then I'm trying to think. Aside from them, I guess maybe my middle son, he's more so heavy into multiplayer stuff he can play with his friends. So like I mentioned a long time ago how like a couple years ago he randomly got really big into Rainbow Six Siege with his friends, and he was like 10 at the time. But yeah, so that, and of course Roblox, and what he's lately been on Rocket League a lot with his buddies and stuff, and his younger brother too with Vash. So yeah, so he's kind of more multiplayer focused. So if his friends aren't online, he's not really gonna be playing too many single player games, whatever, by himself. My oldest son, he kind of ebbs and flows to where, there are some days and stretches where he is, just playing nothing but 2K with his friends and stuff, NBA 2K with his friends. Um, he'll dabble in. It's been a while since I've seen him play like Fortnite and stuff like that. Because his kind of more multiplayer social thing lately has been primarily just NBA 2K. He'll still dabble in Roblox here and there, but I haven't seen him on Roblox too much in recent months. And then yeah, he'll kind of also occasionally, I'll be walking through or passing by, and I'll see him playing different single player games. So I think the other day I saw him playing Wolfenstein 2 New Colossus. He's dabbled in Hitman, Last of Us. I'm trying to think. Oh, what is that? Sniper Elite. He was playing that a while back too. So yeah, so he kind of will dabble in stuff, whatever. And then there is the baby, Mr. Vash. Uh, he probably, funny enough, only being 7, he probably has the widest range of gaming taste out of everybody in the house. Primarily because he is always under me for the most part since he came out the womb, damn near. And so he's kind of gotten exposed to a wider variety of stuff because he'll play Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft and different stuff like that with his siblings and things like that. And then he'll he play like the SpongeBob Rehydrated and Nicktoons All Stars, and sometimes the Sonic Mania and Super Meat Boy. And so he kind of bounces all over the place, which is kind of fun to see. And of course, Kirby and Mario and different things of that nature. But so, like I said, that kind of just like lately with Vash, kind of just like really made me reflect on this because obviously before I was a gamer dad, I was the gamer uncle. So I was the uncle who always had all the new games and systems and everything like that. So, especially for my sister's kids, because they grew up around me more so than my brother's kids did. But um, but yeah, so getting them all the different stuff. But now being in the parent role and stuff, so it really hit me a couple weeks ago, the last day of school. So I've mentioned before that like probably like the last like couple of months when I'm taking Vash to school in the morning, we've been listening to like either the Kirby or primarily the Yoshi's Island soundtrack. So it's just been a nice, fun, mellow tunes to listen to on the way to school and stuff. Well, the last day of school, when we got in the car, I was getting the radio and stuff set up, and I was like, "Hey, so you want to listen to Yoshi like I always do?" And he was like, "No." Dad, I want to listen to your game. I want to listen to 33 game. That's what he calls Expedition 33. 33 game. And so he loves the music, like along with everything else with the game and stuff. Um, and it's funny because I've even heard him walking around the house humming the music and stuff, that main theme song. And this is, I feel like this, along with many other games, but I feel like Expedition 33 is going to be a prime memory for Vash that I could see someday in the future when he's older and he has a stronger understanding of different story stuff, whatever. Because he pretty much saw majority of the game with me after Act One, because I played through most of Act One um, while he wasn't around or whatever, and he happened to be walking through the room, a little bit afterwards, or whatever, and got intrigued by the music and the characters and the flashy fights and animation and stuff. And so yeah, so he sat next to me for a good chunk of the rest of the game, even to the point to where, once I kind of hit the end game or whatever, and I was pretty high level, I would even hand him the controller, and he would even run around and fight some of the bosses or different like mob enemies and stuff. And he even started kind of getting some of the timing down on the dodging and stuff. So he was just having so much fun with this game, and it just really made me think like, man, I I wonder if when he gets older, like I said, if he will go back and play this game fully for himself someday and maybe gain even a greater appreciation, because obviously, he sees certain things, whatever, but he's not there for every single cutscene and stuff. And obviously, being seven, a lot of like the heavier themes, going over his head and stuff. But yeah, I feel like it's been awesome. Like I said, just like reflecting on these different things, and um, my kids, coming and talking to me about different game stuff, whatever. Cause like my oldest son, since he's 16, he has watched the Last of Us TV show or whatever. And that's been stuff we've talked about before with that. And my middle son, he went with a friend for like his birthday, for the friend's birthday, to see the Minecraft movie or whatever. And so yeah, so it's just really interesting. Like I said, just thinking about what role gaming will play in my kids' memories as they get older, because they've just grown up around it. It's always been a thing, because between me and my wife, she also plays, and she plays a variety of stuff as well, to where like right now, like she was playing Oblivion Remastered uh, for a little while there. Of course, she loves her multiplayer stuff with her friends from, Apex, and she was heavy on Friday the 13th before that got shut down. And she during there plays Fallout 4 at least once a year. Uh, so yeah, so it's gonna be it's just very heartwarming for me. Like I said, just like reflecting on being a gamer dad, raising a gaming family, uh, and yeah, it's just a beautiful thing, and something that I hope more of y'all out there are also sharing those memories or making those memories and stuff with your family, friends, whatever the case may be, because you just never know what small different gestures or whatever, or little moments might stick with stick with your kids and stuff when it comes to different games. Because even though, like, my mom never played any games or whatever, but she always, I feel like, understood and respected my love for it. So, because one of my most precious memories was, there is a Tasmanian Devil game on the Sega Genesis back in the day that we had saw somewhere at some like little thrift store or something or whatever. And I was like, ooh, because obviously, 90s, late 90s, early 2000s or whatever, or no, that would have been like late 90s with the Genesis. But I remember she ended up getting that for me as a gift a little bit, later or whatever. And that just sticks in my memory or whatever. And that game, I remember being super hard. I'm trying to let me see if I can find the name of it. Here it is. Taz Escape from Mars. That was the name of the game, Taz and Escape from Mars. Um, but yeah, so but yeah, so that's really all I wanted just to talk about with that. Like I said, it's just reflecting on the moments and different things like that. Because like I said, when Vash asked to listen to the song on the way to school, last day of school, whatever, it just like really touched my heart. And he's been bugging me the last couple of days, man. Like bright, like so, like I got up super early this morning and went to the park and did some walking for about an hour. And I came home, showered. As soon as I got out the shower, he popped in like, "Dad, hey, Dad, you want to play 33 game? You want to play 33?" And I'm like, "Dude, give me a moment, man. Like I'm just getting out the shower. Like, oh, time out, son. Give me a minute, man." But yeah, he's been just right there by my side playing this game. Like I said, I feel like stronger. This feels more impactful in a way because of what this game is compared to, obviously, we've played through the Astrobots and Rayman Legends and so many other games and stuff together. But the fact that this is a game that really touched me in a way to where, I'm 60, 70 hours into the game and, you know, this is a game that's going to be cemented in my memory, not just for how good the game itself was, but for those moments I had with my son right next to me the whole time. So, but yeah, so that's it for sharing gaming memories. So, a couple other gaming related things I want to touch on before I dive into some other things that I just want to shout out very briefly. So there's a game coming out later this year called Hell Is Us. So anybody that might be interested in that game, there is a free demo out on Steam right now, but it's only out from June 2nd to the 16th. So I wanted to put that on people's radars for anybody that's interested in it. Um, uh, there's another game also called The Altars. This game is coming out in a couple of weeks. And so this one, like the premise of it is very interesting, but I'm not too big into like survival type of games because I tried. So there's a demo for this out on everything right now, and I think it's gonna be on Game Pass when it launches. But I tried it and I like what is there, but maybe I'm just wasn't in the right mindset or whatever. But basically, you play as this space explorer guy who gets stranded on the planet. The rest of your crew not around. And so you have to survive. And so you're in this giant mobile base that is shaped like a wheel. And so you are creating different rooms. So it kind of reminds me of if any of y'all have ever played Fallout Shelter, where you're making the different little rooms and stuff. And so, but the way you manage this is that you create altars of yourself. And so, what I mean by that is basically if you're needing to grow some crops, well, you're gonna find a alternate version of yourself that maybe uh, is a farmer or into agriculture. Same thing with, hey, you got some tech stuff, whatever you need done, you can maybe find a alternate version of yourself that's specialized in engineering, so on and so forth. But each of these altars are pretty much created from split moments in the main character's life. So it could be like, hey, when I decided to go to college, I chose to go for aviation, but if things would have worked out differently, I would have wanted to, engineering or whatever. Or, you know, I chose to break up with uh, this girl and that split off my life path this other way, where I became I don't know, really good at mechanics, but I also became an alcoholic. So there's different branching paths and stuff that seem super interesting, but like I said, maybe I just wasn't in the right mood because I have been trying to find the next thing to play after finishing Expedition 33, which I'll just mention very briefly, no spoilers. But I finished that game. And it is one that has truly stuck with me because I continue, like I mentioned earlier, Vash wants me to keep playing it or, running around and stuff, whatever in it. But I have literally done like 90, probably like 95% of everything in that game. I still haven't beaten Simon or Clea. I don't know if I ever will because they are very hard, but I might maybe look up like a specialty character build video, whatever. But I finished the main story, most of the main side quests, all of the special side bosses and stuff, whatever. And this game, like I mentioned, I am pretty much at like 70 hours into this game, and that is a super rarity for me now. With the nature of my life and how busy my scheduling stuff is, that's why, a couple months ago, I was very happy to play through South of Midnight in a week. And that game is like 10 to 12 or so hours, or whatever. And so that's kind of what I've been aiming for, is like these shorter experiences that are like, maybe 10 to 20 hours max. So it takes something truly phenomenal to be able to hold my attention and for me to put so much time into it, because obviously me putting in close to 70 hours over the course of a month, because the game came out towards the end of April and here we are end of May, and I finished it or whatever. And so I, of course, like I said, had to put a lot of other stuff to the side. Didn't watch. It was a lot of days I didn't watch any anime, read any manga for days upon days. It was just like, hey, what little free time I have, I want to play this game. And also, it also really, trying to think, what am I trying to say? It really, whoops, hold on, y'all. Yeah, I don't know. I lost my train of thought, but but the point is, this game is truly one that will stick with me for a very long time. Um, you know, and I definitely cannot wait to see what this team and this studio does in the future. Um, and yeah, so shout out to Expedition 33. And I'll just say, for those of y'all who do know, um, in the end, I chose Verso. And if you've got to the end of the game, you will know what that means. But yeah, but overall though, man, like I truly, and I feel like the the prologue and stuff was obviously strong and got me, but I truly feel that it was the end of Act One, and then it still sticks in my mind when Verso got introduced, and just that moment when Mael asked him like, "What is your name?" and it just does like the face zoom in. He just says Verso, and then we move on to the next part. But yeah, man, this is a truly, truly, truly wonderful game. And like I said, I'm just so happy that I gave it a chance. This is definitely a shout out to Game Pass type of situation, because that's what got me in the door. And then I ended up buying it on my PS5 because I'm not too, and I've talked about it before, but it's like I'm not too much of a role playing game type of person. And so, you know, when I saw this, but obviously with the trailers and the flashiness and the combat or whatever, it definitely kind of gave me hope of like, okay, well, maybe, maybe this will be, something bigger, better, um, that will maybe hold my attention more or better than most typical uh most typical role playing games. Sorry, I'm trying to get my thoughts together and also trying to get these videos to play in the background. but but yeah, y'all. So if you have not given it a shot, try out Expedition 33. Um, but yeah, so truly a phenomenal and a special game. And so last gaming thing I really want to touch on is a game that I literally started playing a few hours ago because I kept dabbling in different things and nothing. I'm like, man, I'm just not in the mood to play this or that or whatever. And then I remember that one of the quote unquote free PlayStation Plus games last month was Warhammer 40K Boltgun. So heard good things about it or whatever, but of course I never really played a Warhammer game. So, but I looked up some of the trailers. I looked at one of the trailers and I was like, huh, this looks interesting. So I downloaded it and I played it for about an hour or so and just immediately fell into a groove with it. And I was telling my wife because she walked in the room while I was playing it or whatever, and she was like, "What the hell is that?" And I told her, I was like, this is the game I need right now because it is such a departure from Expedition 33, from the high fidelity presentation, story beats, combat, all that stuff, whatever. This is just simply, it has a old school look. It is basically what the kids nowadays are calling a boomer shooter, but it has that old school aesthetic or whatever, kind of like a little pixelated a little bit, but you're just running through levels and just fighting demons and all types of crazy creatures or whatever with your different guns and chainsaw blade and all this different stuff, whatever, and simple and fun. And like I said, it was kind of like the perfect palate cleanser for what I needed right now. So, but yeah, so that's it for pretty much game stuff. Like I mentioned at the top, um, Switch 2 is coming out this week, and also Summer Games Fest. So next week's episode, hopefully if I get to record on time, it will definitely just be a discussion and recap on all the gaming stuff that happened over the next week, as well as potential first impressions of a Switch 2 if I happen to get my hands on one. But but yeah, so let's move on to the next thing. Okay, so King of the Hill is returning this fall. So, uh, yeah, this was very interesting watching this new intro sequence because I was literally pausing and freeze framing this to see like all these subtle changes and stuff. But basically, and I definitely need to go back and rewatch like the final, like the last season previously of King of the Hill, because I never really thought of like any type of like real continuity to it or whatever. It was just always, hey, you just which is what it was with a lot of shows like that growing up back in the day. But it was just watching it or whatever. But it's like basically at some point, Hank and Peggy, like I guess Bobby grew up a little bit. Hank and Peggy apparently moved to Saudi Arabia, where Hank took a propane job in Saudi Arabia to earn a retirement nest egg. And then they returned to Arlen, Texas to reconnect with their old friends and stuff. And then, and yeah, and Bobby is in his 20s. He is a chef working in Dallas. And yeah, so it was just very, like I said, just like very interesting. Like I said, just kind of like pausing and freeze framing through that new intro sequence and stuff. But yeah, definitely some interesting things to think about. But hey, I'll be there looking at it when it comes back. So moving on, next thing I want to briefly touch on is I finally circled around to watching Andor season 2 last week. So I've mentioned before, I'm not necessarily like a super big ultra Star Wars fan, but I really enjoyed Andor season 1 when they came out a handful of years ago, maybe I think like 3 or so years ago. And so I was excited to see another season of it or whatever. And so yeah, so I watched it, and man, like pretty much like out the gate, they toss you back into the thick of things, whatever. And we kind of start to see like throughout the season, like maybe like every couple of episodes, like it kind of skips ahead a year. Of course, leading up to the events of the Rogue One movie, and it was just super dope. It is like the simplest way I can put it, because I was just sucked in. Like every time I sat down to watch an episode, it was literally just me and the screen, just the sights and sounds of this world, and just kind of seeing the build up uh to Rogue One, which I then watched after I finished season 2 of Andor. I went on to rewatch Rogue One because I had not seen that movie since it originally came out in 2016, so 9 years ago. And that movie still hits. It still hits. And it was even better for me now, having just watched Andor season 2, so having a lot of these characters. And the funny thing is that honestly, thinking back on it or whatever, I did not even remember that Andor was in Rogue One until like I saw some people, talking about how a lot of people, like when season 2 of Andor was wrapping up or getting close to wrapping up, a lot of people went back to watch Rogue One, which is what put it on my mind. And so I ended up looking at a poster for Rogue One, and I was like, oh, yep, he Cassian, he was right there in the freaking poster. But I don't ever even remember him being a thing in the movie. Only thing I remembered was K2SO, who was still who was very awesome. Seeing the introduction of him in this, and then of course seeing uh, him through Rogue One. But then on the flip side, Forrest Whitaker's character Saw, I don't know, but my memory of Rogue One was, I remembered Saw being in the movie like a whole bunch. And my memory is wrong on both fronts. Like Cassian Andor was in there the whole time, and Saw was in there for maybe 10 minutes. Cause like at the beginning or towards like the earlier parts of Rogue One, when they do the Death Star test on the city of Jeddah and wiped out all of Saw's base or whatever, I'm thinking like, yeah, he was in this movie a lot. So yeah, I remember. Yeah, he's gonna somehow escape or still be alive later on. And he comes in with the brigade of troops, whatever. Nope. So, but yeah, so I don't have too many more in depth thoughts and stuff to say about Andor, because like I said, I'm not like a super ultra duper Star Wars lore fan or anything, whatever. But like I said, if you are a casual Star Wars fan, then Andor, if you have not seen any of it or whatever, then this is definitely one of those series that I highly recommend. And I guess just for context for anybody that might be listening and like don't know what this show is about, so basically it follows Cassian Andor, who is pretty much like a smuggler type of dude who will do odd jobs or whatever, and basically it is the behind the scenes untold story leading up to basically them building up the resistance and stuff, which leads to them going into Rogue One to steal the blueprints of the Death Star, which is how they found the weakness in the movie back in the day. So it's been kind of cool. Like I say, it was kind of cool them showing this like side story because of course we get all the big space battles and fantastical stuff all the time, and so just kind of having a little bit more grounded in a sense story with these characters who are fighting the smaller everyday fight to chip away at these bigger threats or whatever any way that they can. So but yeah, so shout out to Andor and also Rogue One. Like I said, that was a unexpected treat. Getting to go back and to revisit that. So okay, so a couple of Netflix show announcement stuff that happened over this weekend that are of interest to me. So for one, we finally got to see the live action version of Chopper. He looks pretty cool. He looks very fitting for the show. But that's not coming out until sometime next year in 2026. So very sad to hear that news because I thought that it was on point to come out this year. So I don't know what happened, but it is what it is. But yeah, so One Piece live action season 2 coming out next year, 2026. Um, and Stranger Things final season. So I low key don't really care, but I kind of I'm gonna watch it just to see how it all wraps up and stuff. But they are dragging this out like Attack on Titan style, where they're doing volume 1, volume 2, and then the finale. So volume 1, November 26th, volume 2, Christmas, the finale, New Year's Eve. It's like, come on, y'all. Like, low key, I am probably, unless I am like ultra bored and just looking for something to do, I will more than likely just wait until it is all done. And then if I do get to it, I'll watch it then in the one fell swoop when it's all wrapped up and stuff. So, because it kind of reminds me, at least I'll say they are saying this well ahead of time because unlike Stranger Things, Squid Games, when they announced season 2 of that, people thought, oh, okay, cool, this is gonna be it or whatever. But we didn't know until you watch season 2 of Squid Games that, oh, they actually technically it is season 2 split up, but we're just gonna call it season 3. And it was like, yeah, we're gonna kind of leave you on a little bit of a cliffhanger, and then the real final part is gonna come out this summer. And so it's like if I knew ahead of time, like for that, I definitely would have waited for Squid Games to be all done, which last part's coming out at the end of June. But yeah, them spreading it out like that, like over the course of 2 months, pretty much. It just like, come on, y'all. Um, but yeah, so that's it for regular TV stuff. So next, I want to dive into this anime film I came across randomly. So, happened to come across this the other day. It just dropped on Netflix. It's called Lost in Starlight. So, this is I believe it's a Korean animated movie. And like I said, I don't remember if maybe somebody I follow, something, I don't know. It just came across my timeline or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, what is that? And when I looked it up, I'm like, oh, okay, it's a movie. Okay, it's under 2 hours. Sure, why not? So I started watching it Saturday morning and stuff, and I really enjoyed it. So it is pretty much like a sci-fi kind of like romance type of movie a little bit. So it basically deals with this. So okay, so this is a little bit further in the future to where you know technology and stuff is at a point to where we can make trips to Mars. So there was a expedition to Mars 20 years ago from the current storyline, and something went horribly wrong. I don't know. I think it was like a meteor or something, whatever hit. Well, they explain a little bit later on, but basically something happens and the whole crew gets wiped out. Well, one of the astronauts on the voyage or whatever, her daughter grows up to also become an astronaut and stuff. And so, but of course, she is dealing with lots of PTSD related to her mother and stuff, and that incident, because she has footage of, because as we've seen in many sci-fi movies and stuff, whatever, where people are able to like record a video or something, whatever, or sometimes even live stream recording when the signal is good enough, whatever, back home. But she has that final moment recorded of her mother sending her a video of, hey, checking in, da 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 da, and then the incident happens and stuff. So she has trauma from that, but she is working on trying to become part of the crew for the next expedition that is set to go out in the coming months, years, whenever the time frame is, whatever. And so along the way, she ends up meeting this guy just by happenstance, whatever. Just kind of typical cliche. They bump into each other, clumsily or whatever, and so she ends up breaking a record player that was a family treasure, or whatever, and he ends up offering to fix it. Yada yada yada. Fast forward a little bit, and things kind of start to escalate from there. So I do want to talk more in depth about the movie in a second, but kind of speaking more broadly before I get into specifics and spoilers, thoughts, whatever. But overall, this movie deals with, like I said, it hits on like the sense of wonder of like with the space exploration and stuff, but it also kind of really touches on these characters who are both found each other at the right time in each other's lives, because the girl so the girl is named Nan Young and the guy is named Jay. So both of them, like I said, kind of found each other at the right points in their lives, because Nan Young had kind of purposely avoided building any strong connections with people just because of the fear of her knowing that there's a strong chance that she might get to follow in her mother's footsteps and go to Mars on this mission, but also knowing how difficult that would be to have formed a strong connection with somebody that you will then have to leave behind for some amount of time, if not forever, potentially. And so that's kind of why she has always kind of kept certain relationships and stuff at a distance. And then on the flip side, Jay is somebody who, he's kind of working like odd jobs and stuff now, but he had dreams and stuff of being a musician and stuff. He was in a band, which is kind of what, in a wonderful way, is what led to their connection, because one day, she, when they get the record player fixed, and she is wanting to try out one of her favorite songs, and she is playing it, and Jay immediately like perks up, and she's like, "Oh, do you know this song, or whatever?" Like, I don't know anybody else that knows it. And he's like, "Yeah, I know it because that's my song." And so it was a situation where he put it out online, felt kind of embarrassed or whatever, and immediately took it down. But she managed to listen to it during however short time it was up, whatever, and saved it. And so she begins to express like how much that song and the music really connected with her. And that kind of leads to her encouraging him to getting back into music and creating and things of that nature. And so you kind of start to see the growth between the two of them, like their love and their bond growing and getting stronger throughout this movie as she continues to make breakthroughs in her field in preparation of trying to get on this mission, and then Jay finding himself and his confidence again in his music and things like that. But then of course, it all kind of comes to a head at a very crucial moment where she gets accepted to go on this mission, and then there is that tough moment of realization of, he obviously does not want her to go. He kind of didn't want her to go as on a baseline, but he ends up coming across that video of her mother and her final moments and stuff, whatever, from that accident or whatever. And that definitely makes him like quadruple down and like, yo, you're trying to go into that, type of situation or whatever. And so that causes a temporary fracture in things. But I am happy, and I know I'm kind of already talking through stuff and spoiling, so sorry, but I am happy that they were able to reconnect before she did leave and stuff. And then while she was gone, they still got to talk regularly or whatever. And he continued his journey to getting back with the band and doing music and all this stuff, whatever. But then, man, it was like that sometimes some people's inner nature never truly goes away. And, she never stopped being that little girl, hoping to maybe find some sign of her mother still being alive or something, whatever. And so, like, when she's on Mars and she goes off on her own to search for this signal or whatever, and then, she doesn't hear the warning about the tornadoes and stuff coming, and she gets knocked down into this cavern and suit damaged and all this stuff, whatever. It really like that scary moment really took me back to when I watched Space Brothers a couple years ago, and Hibito had his little incident he had to deal with on a mission and stuff. But yeah, man, it all came full circle though in such a beautiful way of her, stumbling across this uh, field of flowers that her mother kind of introduced to her, or whatever, that kind of helped with, I think it was basically kind of like producing oxygen and stuff, whatever, for her to be able to breathe. So, anywho, clutch. All these years later, her mother is gone, but her legacy remains, and her legacy saved her in this most dire time of need. And then then things, she makes it back to the earth. Things are all happily, whatever. But yeah, but all in all, though, yeah, this was just such a great little surprise. Like I said, just to kind of like stumble across. The visuals were on point. The music was really good. And like I said, I really enjoyed seeing these two characters kind of go from, strangers to, lovers and partners and everything like that. So yeah, so shout out to Lost in Starlight on Netflix. Okay, so just very briefly, just want to just shout out a couple of anime that I caught up on over the last couple of days. Like, of course, the top one for me was Apothecary Diaries. Watching that newest episode, like we only have like 4 to 5 episodes left of this season, and I am just so eager to see how they are gonna wrap this all up and stuff, man. Because right now, things are in a crazy situation. I'm not gonna talk about no spoilers or whatever right now, but this show just continues to be a must-watch highlight every single week for me. So yeah, so shout out to Apothecary Diaries. Two Perfect Saint. I also had a phenomenal episode. I enjoyed seeing the younger sister persevere and to see what basically to see the second prince get his comeuppance in a way, because he went full demon time. or he thought he was, but then the tables turned. But that was a great episode. What else? To Be Hero X, also really dope episode with another crazy cliffhanger ending. So can't wait for that one. And then also Old Country Bumpkin. I just continued to enjoy these characters and stuff, and it's always fun just running into new students of his. And I think that's it. I did catch up on sort of the Demon Hunter uh, Kijin Gento show. So, only thing I'm gonna say on that, so this is one where I did read the first volume a while back, whatever, and it is very interesting that they are just now. They did something at the end of the last episode, most recent episode, that they did at the end of the first volume. So, granted, I never read past volume one, but that tease that they did at the end of this episode, like I said, that was done earlier in the manga or whatever. Just like when I saw that moment happen, I was like, oh, okay, so this is where y'all are putting this. So, but yeah, so very curious to see how that goes and shakes out. Yeah, I think that's it as far as like stuff I'm caught up on. I'm saving Kowloon, watching a couple episodes. Same thing with Windbreaker and Apocalypse Hotel. I'm a few episodes behind on that, I think. Yeah, 2 on that, 3 on Windbreaker, 3 on Kowloon. So, but yeah, so that's it as far as anime stuff. I just wanted to shout out really quick. Um, so manga wise, I do want to shout out Snowball Earth. Got added to the Viz app. I can't remember if I said that last time or if it happened afterwards, but Snowball Earth is on there. The first, I think, 5 volumes. So good stuff. Speaking of stuff that is out, those of y'all that are watching the video version see what is behind me. A new champion has entered the ring. The Bugle Call, Song of War, physical volume comes out this week. Of course, shout out to Barnes and Nobles. I always put stuff up a few days early because I was like, you know what, I want to see if they might have it, and they do. And yeah, this is a very meaty first volume, but yeah, I'm very excited to reread this part of the series and to talk about it again because yeah, this is one that I had heard about for a long time. And I finally read online last year, whatever. Phenomenal. So I'll just read the synopsis real quick just to give you all a little taste of what's to come. So, in Arbor year 1294, the world is dominated by 9 massive towers known as the Spires, remnants of an advanced civilization. They are filled with lost secrets and powerful knowledge that nations struggle to possess. Luca is a bugler in a mercenary company who wants nothing more than to leave the battlefield behind and become a true musician, a maestro, but marked as one of the enigmatic Branch Hext and gifted with the strange ability to see the sound of his instruments. Luca finds himself drawn reluctantly into a war of epic proportions. Left for dead after a battle, Luca is saved by the mysterious pontiff and learns he is not the only person with unusual powers. The pontiff has formed a special team of branch hexed individuals he plans to use to help him defeat rival empires, and Luca learns that his powers, rather than being an escape from the battlefield, now force him to be a muse of massacre. Yeah. Yeah. That's some good stuff. But yeah, so shout out to that. I also want to give a shout out to one that I will someday catch up on, Magus of the Library. So I went when I was at Barnes and Noble just looking around or whatever. I saw that volume 8 of that is out now. So there are now 4 whole volumes I have not read past what I got. Same thing with Die Dark. I also saw Volume 8 of that is out as well. So I'm like, dang, so I'm four volumes behind on that, which is fine. Hey, the more build up, the better for later. Um, oh, so there's another new manga I had did a review for the other day that is coming out this week that I just want to give a shout out to. It is called Roar, a Star in the Abyss. So this one was very interesting. So pretty much the setup for this, I'll read the synopsis of this. Who is the villain of your story? Misato had a perfect childhood with parents who loved her and a home on an idyllic island in Japan's inland sea. But then a TV show starts shooting in town. Misato is cast as an extra, and in an instant, her life is turned on its head. A woman appears claiming to be her real mother, and before she knows it, Misato is living in a lavish mansion surrounded by greedy schemers of all stripes. The curtain rises on the story of a rising star who plunges into an abyss where the only substance is vengeance. So, I'm gonna just talk about this very briefly because if you want deeper thoughts, go watch the whole separate episode dedicated to it. But this is one that I feel has some strong potential with it. And I feel like this is one though that might be worth picking up after maybe a couple of volumes, maybe 2 to 3 volumes are out. Because, like I said, the setup in this very tantalizing. Kind of gives me a little bit of a Oshinoko mixed with thinking about some actage, thinking about some shoot, what was the other comparison I had made? I can't think of what the other comparison I had made for it. But anywho, yeah, just the burn the house down. That's what it was. But yeah, so the way things are set up with this, with some shady people, and yeah, so cause finding out some things about the main character Misato and who her actual birth parent might be, and how that relates to stardom and TV shows and different things like that. So, but yeah, so if you want more in-depth thoughts, go check out that review. And yeah, I think that might be it. As far as stuff I wanted to touch on today. Bum bum bum. Yeah, yeah. I'll just say shout out also to One Piece. I finally caught back up on that because honestly, for the first time since I been caught up with the manga, which was since Dressrosa, although like almost a decade ago, or whatever, I had never been more than maybe a chapter or two behind. Well, I was close to 5 behind. But yeah, so this was a great time for me to pick it back up though with chapter 1150, and some very interesting things just happened in the last couple of chapters. So very, yeah, I'm probably gonna be back on reading week to week now. So, but but yeah, so that's it as far as things I mainly want to touch on. There's some other new manga and stuff I checked out and stuff as well, but I'm gonna kind of let some of those stew a bit and talk about those in the future. But with that being said, I'm about to get up out of here. I've been going almost an hour, and I gotta be up mega ultra early. But as always, thank you so much for watching or listening. You can always find me everywhere at Daddy to Talk. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on anything I talk about today, from you know gaming memories with friends and family to the Switch 2 coming out in a couple of days, to Andor and the Lost in what was it called? Lost in, my brain is blanking me, Starlight, or anything else. So, but I've rambled on enough. Um, I'll catch you on the next one. As I always say, treat yourself to something nice. Read some manga, watch some anime, TV shows, movies, play some video games, and of course, live your best life. And with that, I am out. Y'all be easy. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.